Welcome, friends. We are in week 2 of our August theme, Hope in the Unseen, Faith and Strategy. Last week, we reflected on Hebrews 11, verse 1, and the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction that what God has promised is real, even when we cannot yet see it. This week, I want to take that thought a little deeper. Because sometimes faith is not simply about believing for what we hope will happen. Sometimes faith requires us to keep going when what we can see does not look anything like what we hoped for. Our scripture this week is 2 Corinthians 4:18. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. Since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. But to really understand this verse, we need to look at what Paul says just before it. In verse 16, Paul says that we should not lose heart. Even though our outward selves are wasting away, our inward selves are being renewed day by day. Then he describes the difficulties we experience in this life as temporary in comparison to eternal glory that is being produced through him. And then comes the instruction. Fix your eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. That is a powerful leadership principle because leadership can make us very focused on what is visible. The promotion, the title, the salary, the recognition, the number of people following us, the successful project, the measurable outcome, the next achievement. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with goals, strategy, achievement, or professional growth. But scripture reminds us that what is visible is not always what is most valuable. So I ask you this. What are you looking at? What are you measuring your life by? What are you using to determine whether you are successful or not? Is it what you have accumulated, the position you hold, the recognition you receive, the opportunities you may have been given? Or are you always measuring your life by the values you have upheld, the people you have helped, the character you have developed, and the lives you have influenced? Because there are some things that will never appear on a resume. There are investments you will make that will never produce an immediate return. There are seeds you will plant that you may never see become a harvest. And there are people whose lives may be transformed because of something you said, something you modeled, something you taught, or simply because you chose to show up consistently. That is the tension between the seen and the unseen. Imagine spending years nurturing a tree that will eventually provide shade, but you may never be the person who sits beneath it. You plant it, you water it, you protect it, you wait, and someone else enjoys its shade. Was your investment wasted? Absolutely not. The fact that you do not personally experience the full benefit of your investment does not mean the investment was without value. And I think that is an important lesson for leadership. Sometimes we are called to plant trees, to build systems we may never receive credit for, to mentor people who will eventually surpass us, to create opportunities that benefit people we may never meet, to establish values and cultures that continue long after we have moved on, to invest in our families, our communities, our organizations, and our workplaces in ways whose full impact may not become visible during our lifetime. My friends, that is legacy. And this is where faith and strategy come together. Strategy helps us determine what we should do, but faith helps us remain committed when the results are not yet visible. We make the plan, we take the next step, we do the work, we evaluate, we adjust, we remain obedient. But we do not allow the absence of immediate results to convince us that our work is meaningless, because our responsibility is not always to see the entire outcome. Sometimes our responsibility is simply to be faithful with the part that God has placed in our hands. This is why I believe faith is not passive. Faith is lived. Faith is practiced. Faith is demonstrated through our choices and our actions. We can pray about the vision and still make the phone call. We can trust God and still prepare. We can believe for the future and still do today's work. We can fix our eyes on the unseen while being intentional about what we do in the seen. So here is the question I want you to sit with this week. What if the thing you were tempted to dismiss because you cannot yet see the results is actually the very thing God is using to build your legacy? Perhaps you are mentoring someone. Perhaps you are rebuilding after a difficult season, or maybe you are developing a new skill. Perhaps you are building a business or creating something that you believe will serve others. Perhaps you are leading through a difficult organizational transformation. Or perhaps you are simply trying to become the person God is calling you to become. Do not measure the value of the work solely by what you see today. Some things take time, a long time. Some things take root beneath the surface before they are ever appear above it. And some of the greatest impact you will ever make may happen in ways you will never be able to measure. So I'm back to 3 questions this week. The first one, what are you currently measuring that is temporary? Number 2, what eternal or lasting values do I want my leadership to be known for? And 3, what am I willing to faithfully invest in today, even if I may not see the full results tomorrow? Because the goal is not simply to achieve something. The goal is to become someone and to build something that has lasting impact. So as you move through this week, remember, you do not have to see everything to remain faithful. You do not have to understand the entire journey to take the next step. And you do not have to receive the immediate reward to know that your investment matters. I encourage you to keep planting, keep building, keep serving, keep believing, and keep your eyes fixed beyond what is visible. Because what we can see in the temporary, God is doing through a faithful life that can have an impact far beyond what you can see. I am Genevieve Melanie Julian. Thank you for joining me for this week's Speaking Life devotion. Remember, speak life, hold on to hope, walk faithfully, and trust God with the unseen. I'll see you next time.